This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
Right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Welcome back to another episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And today we are watching WrestleMania 4. We've already set this up with our bonus episode. We've kind of seen this one brewing since WrestleMania 3. This is going to be another rematch. I believe we get another rematch of Hogan versus Andre in this WrestleMania. We also get a 14-man elimination tournament for the vacated WWF World Heavyweight Championship because of what we saw happen in our bonus episode covering the main event. Andre tries to sell the WWF title to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Jack Tunney says no, won't allow it, vacates the title. Now we get this tournament for this WrestleMania. I'm looking forward to it. How about you, Blaze?
I am very much looking forward to it. I love me some tournaments, and that's what we got.
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun one. We'd like to point out that we've had a lot of interaction with some people on our page lately, the Facebook page, the Rage and Blaze Show. So we'd like to give a shout out to one of our followers who likes to go by the name of Boomer, and he has been adding to the Facebook page, and we'd like to thank him for that. We also have a special message from Boomer, but we're going to hold off to the end of the show to read that message.
Well, it would be at the end of part 2, because this will probably be another 2-part episode.
Yes, that is true. This is a 3.5-hour pay-per-view. Can't imagine we're going to get everything covered in an hour, so this will be another 2-parter.
Okay, Boomer.
So we will hear from Boomer's letter in the next episode. We also would like to say, if you would like to join the conversation, hit us up on Facebook. We've got the Rage and Blaze Show Instagram page, at Ricky Rayberg on Twitter.
We got the Rage and Blaze at gmail.com. We've got Dragon Blazer Productions on Facebook fan page. We got Dragon Blazer Productions on Instagram. And my Twitter handle is at Dragon Blazer Pro.
Okay, so that's where you can join the conversation. Hit us up with your opinions. So let's talk about what we're about to see here. So this is the first WrestleMania, just knowing where the card leads. This is going to be the first WrestleMania that it is not a Hogan main event.
Yeah. I have a question. Do you even know is Hogan in this show?
I just said we get an Andre versus Hogan rematch.
Oh, we do? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
I believe so in this pay-per-view. Because
I was thinking the entire show was the tournament.
If I'm wrong, I will go back and we will edit this so we don't look like dumbasses.
No. We'll keep that in.
So anyhow, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's start the show. Okay, so the start of WrestleMania 4 begins with America the Beautiful, as such most WrestleManias do. And on this year's edition of WrestleMania, we get Gladys Knight,
the Empress of Soul.
She gets to perform the rendition of America the Beautiful. She did a great job. They also talk about, they kind of show the crowd, talk about how this is from Trump Plaza.
Yes, and we actually are going to read the first part of the Boomer's email for us because he talks about this. Also, do you know Gladys Knight?
Yes, I know Gladys Knight.
Do you know what song she's popular for?
Yeah, Midnight Train to Georgia.
Yep. Which is a great song. Great song.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't know how... there's probably a lot of Gladys Knight songs that I know that I just don't realize it's Gladys Knight. That's the main one I know from her.
Yeah, that's the biggest song I remember, too, without kind of doing more research.
Right. All right, so this is a email. This is the first part. We're not going to read the second part because it pertains to the end of the show. So, but we're going to read the first part of the Boomer's email to us on rageandblaze@gmail.com. All right, my brothers, Rage and Blaze, here are two very interesting facts about WrestleMania 4. Let's educate the masses. First fact for you. Did you know WrestleMania 4 and 5 were not actually held inside of Trump Plaza? That's just how it was billed. It was actually located inside the Atlantic City Convention Center, which was by Trump Plaza.
Okay, interesting nugget. I also would like to point out that, did you notice how much smaller the venue is compared to WrestleMania 3? Where I feel like from the get-go of this show, WrestleMania I felt got bigger and bigger and bigger each year so far. This year, they downsized. So they're in a I think they have about 19,000 fans in attendance here, probably a little bit over that. Which
the last show is like the biggest, and still doesn't that?
Well, it held up until like 20 years or something, but there was 93,000 in attendance at the Pontiac Silverdome. So I just kind of wanted to point out how much smaller of a venue they're holding it, and just from knowing history, we know that WrestleMania is held in Atlantic City here 2 years in a row, which was kind of odd. But they ended up holding it twice in a row in Atlantic City.
Yeah, that is weird that we got the same venue 2 years in a row. But WrestleMania, I guess, wasn't what it was. Like it was essentially wrestling's Super Bowl, but it wasn't to the... I mean, I guess WrestleMania will never be as big as the Super Bowl, but...
Come on now. WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of sports entertainment.
It is. It is.
You're not wrong. It is definitely wrestling's Super Bowl.
It is.
It draws a very similar comparison.
I did not say it wasn't.
Okay, so moving on, the very first match we get is a 20-man over-the-top rope battle royal. What'd you think of this, Blaze?
It's a fun match. It's a battle royal. I always like a battle royal. Not a lot of great spots.
Yeah,
in this one,
not a lot of memorable moments. It just kind of was a battle royal for this really tall, big trophy.
No, it was interesting that I didn't realize that they did so many battle royals in the early days, and now they're bringing it back, or they kind of brought it back, and so I didn't realize this was a tradition that they brought back. I just thought that was just something to honor Andre, but because now it's called the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Yeah.
Which fits because Andre wins the first one. Andre's not in this one at all.
No. Matter of fact, you didn't really get those big guys in this Battle Royal.
No big guys at all, really.
At Royal Rumble, some of those other Battle Royals. You don't have any of them. You know, One Man Gang or Bam Bam Bigelow or Big John Studd. None of them. You don't get none of those guys.
We didn't get a Battle Royal in the last pay-per-view or last WrestleMania. But we got one in the second one, so this is our second Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
Okay. So, the final four comes down to Paul Roma, Bret the Hitman Hart, the JYD Junkyard Dog, and Bad News Brown.
Yeah, Paul Roma doesn't last very long into this.
No, they didn't really focus on the Final Four, but we felt it was important to point it out. But the Final Three was fun, because then you had JYD with Bad News Brown and Bret the Hitman Hart, which were two heels versus the face, and the JYD, he had a couple fun spots doing on all four headbutts on both of these guys. But eventually these guys ganged up on him and threw him out. So after they get thrown out, so now you got two heels in the ring, and you've got Bad News Brown and Bret the Hitman Hart. They're kind of holding each other's arms up like, hey, we're victorious, even though this is still, you're in the middle of a battle royal.
Yeah.
So Bad News Brown recognizes this and gives Bret Hart a little bit of a cheap shot, which I don't even know if you could call it a cheap shot when you're in the middle of a battle royal.
Yeah, every man for themselves.
You're sitting there celebrating
and
like
you're the only two left.
I think Bret Hart was still in that I'm a tag team wrestler mode in his head, and he just hasn't quite grasped the whole singles competition thing. Who knows? So he gets thrown out. Bad News Brown wins the battle royal, but Bret Hart, as he has done so many times, kind of a sore loser here.
Yeah.
He's kind of a sore loser.
He kind of cheated on.
So he jumps back into the ring and destroys Bad News Brown's brand new taller than him trophy.
This trophy they made literally for Bret Hart to destroy this taller than him trophy.
So, and then the fans start cheering. Keep in mind, he's supposed to be a heel, so I'm not 100% sure. They didn't really go into it, but it kind of seems like we got somewhat of a face turn.
I think
for Bret Hart.
I think this is a moment of smart fans recognizing that Bret Hart is something special. So maybe they just started liking him around this time.
Not sure. So, I mean, he was acting like a heel in this battle royal, ganging up on JYD, and now all of a sudden the fans are cheering him. He's breaking this trophy. So it was an interesting spot.
Fans can be kind of animals, so they probably just enjoyed watching a trophy get destroyed.
Okay, so all right. So the next thing we get in this WrestleMania is Robin Leach, who he used to host the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
His voice is so recognizable.
Very recognizable. He reads off almost like in a proclamation scroll. He reads off that, basically we're going to have a 14-man elimination tournament, and he kind of reads this whole scroll thing off, and then they announce the next match is about to happen, which would be the first match in this tournament in the first round.
All right, I'm excited. Let's go.
Okay, let's move on to that match then. Okay, so the first match in the tournament is between Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, accompanied by Virgil and Andre the Giant. This was a fun match. I really enjoyed this.
Really, I mean, this is, I believe, the first time we've got to see $1 Million Man in the ring. And I tell you what, that man sells those moves so fantastically.
Oh, he sold a couple of Duggan's moves just perfectly.
Atomic drop, he just flies over the rope after taking that atomic drop. And then he jumps off the top of the rope, and Duggan punches him in the stomach, and he just rolls up with it. I mean, you know what? That was he's an impressive performer. I loved watching this match.
Yeah, it was
a good match, good sales,
very good match, and we're starting to feel storylines really taking place here because Andre gets himself involved as Duggan is about to go in the 3-point stance and do I can't recall what the finishing move that Duggan called that.
I don't remember what he calls it.
Where he pretty much just tackles somebody. Yeah. But it's not a spear. it's more of a push.
Like a shoulder block.
Yeah, like a shoulder push or something. Anyhow, he's about to put on this move where Andre grabs his feet and prevents him from being able to put the move on Ted DiBiase. So Andre gets himself involved, punches Duggan in the head, while Ted DiBiase gives him a knee to the kidneys, and unfortunately that was just too much for Duggan to withstand. 1, 2, 3, $1 Million Man moves on in this tournament.
$1 Million Man should have just given Hacksaw Jim Duggan some money, and then he wouldn't have to deal with the humiliation of losing this match.
Yeah, and for the second time in this WrestleMania, we have sore loser again. Duggan did not take well to losing. He went out of the ring, got his 2x4, and chased them out of the arena.
Well, you know, these things happen.
Okay, so let's move on. So the next thing we get before the match that we're about to get is a promo from Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I liked the promo. I mean, it was fine, but it felt too much like a forced character. Like, maybe he gets better in his promos later on, but I can't say I was a fan. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed. I didn't think it was horrible, but I just wasn't. It wasn't nothing special.
I'm not saying it wasn't horrible. He was trying to do something, but it was just, I don't know, it kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. So, the next tournament, in the first round of the tournament, the next match, we get The Rock, Don Morocco, and he comes out with the superstar Billy Graham, and he faces Dino Bravo when he comes out with Frenchie Martin. Now, this match, I felt, got off to a really rough start.
Yeah, there was some really bad botches in this match.
There was not only there was a botch from Morocco off the top rope, but then immediately after the botch off the top rope, he gets kind of pushed off. Dino Bravo tries to push him off, and Morocco kind of had a delayed reaction to it. It looked really awkward, where he kind of was getting off of him normal, and then realized, oh, I'm being pushed off, and it's almost like flung himself up in the air.
Yeah, these two did
very
not have
odd. Not a lot of good chemistry between the two.
They did not have very good ring chemistry at all. Yeah, this was an awkward match. It wasn't that good. Two muscle-bound dudes. And it wasn't so much that as it was just bad ring presence. It just, I don't know, it wasn't very good.
Yeah. So I wasn't overly impressed with this match. I don't think the botches kind of stopped towards, later on in the match, but I don't think the match really got much better.
Really got awkward. I expect more from The Rock.
Yeah. So this match just kind of fell flat to me. But this is a tournament, and it ends in disqualification.
Yeah, because Dino Bravo, or as I like to call him, Johnny Bravo, throws the ref in front of a move that The Rock is doing and gets the DQ.
Yeah, so this match ends in disqualification. Don Morocco's going to move on in the tournament. It was just a very unforgettable match.
Yeah, I was going to say some things defending Johnny Bravo here for that cheating that he does at the end there, but just like Shania Twain, he didn't impress me much.
Really? Okay. All right, here we go. So we're going to move on to the next match. Okay, so we get a promo from the Honky Tonk Man.
Yes, we do. Good promo. It's Honky Tonk.
It was fun. And then we get our next match, which is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Oh, you forgot about Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's manager coming out with him.
Oh, yeah. Ricky brings out his baby. I think this is a WrestleMania first.
And possibly only. I don't recall too many wrestlers bringing their babies to the ring.
I don't recall babies
in the
being
entrance.
in WrestleMania.
In the entrance. I was worried for that baby. I didn't know what Greg the Hammer Valentine might do.
So then he passes the baby off to some random woman.
His wife?
Oh.
They specifically say that's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's wife, probably the mother of the child.
Fair to say, I suppose.
No, that is literally what they said.
Yeah, agree to disagree. Just some random woman just grabbing the baby.
Wife.
Then we got Jimmy Hart on the other side for Greg the Hammer Valentine, and we're moving on with this match. It was a good match. There was a few moments that felt a little off, but overall it was a decent match. Ricky the Dragon, he usually puts on a good show regardless, but there was a couple miscues.
Yeah, there was a moment where Ricky the Dragon Steamboat drop kicked Greg the Hammer Valentine into the ropes, and he bounces back, and it seems like he's going for a schoolboy roll-up pin, and he just completely misses him. It was just very awkward moment. But other than that, it was a decent match. Ends with Greg the Hammer Valentine winning after Ricky the Dragon Steamboat jumps off the top rope and for a splash,
crossbody
splash, and Greg kind of just rolls him up and takes the momentum and gets the pin.
Yeah, so he's moving on. This was another tournament match. So Greg the Hammer Valentine is moving on to the second round of the tournament.
That is correct.
So before the next match, we get a British the Bulldogs and Coco Beware promo with their dog Matilda. And they talk about Matilda being the only certified weasel hunting dog in the world. Referring to hunting weasels, they are referring to Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah. It was fine.
It was a little fun little promo.
It was alright.
Nothing exciting, nothing too over the top, but it was different. I remembered it.
Okay.
So then we get our next match, which is the Natural Butch Reed and in his corner Slick, and his opponent, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, with Miss Elizabeth. This is a first round tournament match, and this was a pretty good match. I so far think this was best match of the night so far that I've seen. I haven't really been overly impressed with a lot of the matches on this card that they've had so far, but this match did work for me.
Yeah, it was an alright match. I mean, it wasn't anything. I love Macho Man, so it was a kind of. It was fine. There wasn't anything bad about it. It was just a decent match.
Yeah, it was good match, good chemistry. I didn't see any botches. I didn't see anything. This
is the first one I don't think we've really
this is probably one of the first matches outside of the Battle Royal.
No, you know what? I take that back. This is not the best match so far. That's definitely Ted DiBiase.
The DiBiase match.
Yeah, him selling moves was super entertaining for me.
I agree. I guess I could see that argument. But for me, I thought this was the best match of the night. I think Randy Savage and Butch Reed worked pretty well together in this match.
I mean, I don't think it was a bad match, but it just didn't have the pizzazz that the Ted DiBiase match had, in my opinion.
So the match ends with Butch Reed kind of on his own, kind of talking crap to Miss Elizabeth and not really paying attention.
Elizabeth is using her womanly wiles to help Macho Man is what happened.
She was just standing out there. She wasn't saying anything. Heck, I don't think I've ever heard her talk. So, Macho Man takes advantage of this. He throws Butch off the top ropes. He lands in the middle of the ring. Macho Man heads up to the top and flying elbow. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, decent match.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was his second best match of the night so far.
Tied for first right now. We'll see how the night goes. I thought they worked well together.
It was
I
fine,
I do agree it was
super impressive.
I do agree that Ted DiBiase brought a lot of fun into that last match, but I thought this was more well-rounded, better match with both performers.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so let's
wrong,
let's
fair.
keep going. Okay, so the next thing we get is a promo with Bobby the Brain Heenan and the Islanders, which the Islanders don't talk, but they talk about the Matilda and the dog, coming to hunt him and all this. It was, it was Bobby the Brain.
This has just been kind of a disappointing pay-per-view so far.
Yeah, this is not. I don't think this is going to rank up there so far. This has kind of been a lackluster WrestleMania so far.
A little bit.
Nothing special, nothing too exciting.
Still better than the first one, but
We still have time to go, but so far this has kind of just been I don't know, just not as exciting or fun WrestleMania as we've had already.
yeah.
Okay, so the next match we get One Man Gang with Slick and Bam Bam Bigelow with Oliver Humperdinck. So this match was fun. I found it fun, but it had its flaws. Watching Bam Bam is really fun to me.
Yeah, Bam Bam. I really was impressed with him in the the Royal Rumble.
No, it was Survivor Series. He was the last man on Hogan's team.
Oh, that's
left
right.
standing.
Yeah, I was very impressed with him there. He didn't do anything as impressive in this match, but I still enjoyed him doing a lot of cartwheels for a big guy.
He's doing cartwheels for no reason at all.
No reason at all.
So
Just to be like, hey, I'm big. Look at what I can do.
So yeah, this was like I said, he didn't do as much in this match as he did in Survivor Series, but the match ended kind of weird.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a disqualification. They said it was a count out for Bam Bam.
It was weird because so Bam Bam was running towards the ropes and Slick pulled down the top rope and Bam Bam fell outside. So we thought maybe this was a disqualification, but a very delayed reaction about it. And then Bam Bam was kind of out there yelling with Slick. I never really heard him count to 10, though.
So I'm thinking this is a matter of they didn't have a mic on the ref back then. And I feel like nowadays they put a mic, one of those little mics you put on your shirt, on the referee so you can hear the counts. Because I've noticed this a lot. There's been a few countouts we've had while watching through these, and none of them seem like it's happened. Like, they don't really make a big emphasis on the count out until after the count out has happened.
Yeah, and so Bam Bam comes back into the ring, and you think the match is about to continue, and all of a sudden you start to get a announcement that the winner of this match was One Man Gang via countout. And it was just kind of awkward. It just felt awkward.
Felt awkward. It was terrible. I would have much rather have seen the way more impressive Bam Bam continue on. Instead, we're getting One Man Gang, which so far, he's a big guy. That's about all he is. I haven't seen much out of him to be impressed.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely would have liked to seen Bam Bam move on in this tournament, see more of him. He's really fun to watch.
He's really agile for such a large man.
So it just was kind of disappointing when we got these results, and it was just the way it happened was just so confusing. Like, you didn't even realize that the match was being stopped. It was just kind of odd. And it just happened.
Yeah, it was weird.
So the next thing we get is a very, very entertaining promo from Hulk Hogan. He talks about splitting the
United States to the
United States
Jersey
down
to Florida.
from Jersey to Florida, and splitting it down, and he'll slam Andre down into the ocean. It was wild. And the whole time he's talking, he's flexing his muscles like Hogan always does. He's flexing up while talking. And Blaze, I know you want to talk about how he left the interview.
Well, as I brought up in the last show, or the bonus episode, Hulk Hogan does this pose, this muscle pose, and then he backs away. Well, not this time. Not this time.
Doesn't just
he
back
posed,
away.
and then he waves his arm like he's backing out with the ocean.
Yeah, it was almost like he was swimming a backstroke.
Yeah. Well, because he parted the earth, and Andre is now in the water, so he's got to swim away.
And something to do with he was going to slam him down to the bottom of the ocean. So this was a fun one. This was
absolute ridiculous and crazy, and I loved it.
It was definitely the right kind of cheese.
It's insane.
Okay, so the next match we're going to get in the tournament is Jake the Snake Roberts versus Ravishing Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan in his corner. This match, I thought, started off really good. Two really good wrestlers, really fun, a lot of good spots. But somewhere down the line, and the crowd there will agree with me on this, the fans actually started chanting boring.
Well, these are Jersey fans.
Yeah, so. These Jersey fans are brutal, because Ravishing Rick Rude pretty much puts Jake the Snake Roberts in a sleeper hold that probably lasts about 7-8 minutes throughout the match, where the commentators actually had to point out that this match is for a 15-minute time limit, and they kept repeating this during these slow, drawn-out holds that Rick Rude was doing.
And to the point I even mentioned that this match is not going to end.
Yeah,
this match
because they kept pointing out it's only a 15-minute time limit, and it just was weird because the fans started chanting boring because he's doing this sleeper hold, and it lasted forever.
Reverse chin lock.
Huh?
It was a reverse chin lock.
Reverse chin lock. But it lasted forever.
Now, see, I liked this match. I can see why the fans were getting bored. There was a lot that I would have preferred a little bit more variety with the submissions. Like, I like a good technician submission type.
Yeah, but it was the same move.
It was the same move over and over again, which I guess also tells the story. But
he kind of releases it and then reapplied it.
And then it got a little more exciting when he finally breaks out of that by landing on his butt and hitting his Ravishing Rick Rude's chin. So, I mean, and it got a little bit more exciting after that. But, yeah, there was a little too much of the reverse chin lock. And, like I said, I normally wouldn't mind that for a submission wrestler if it was a variety of moves. Or if that's, I don't know, is that Ravishing Rick Rude's finisher?
I'd have to look it up, to be honest.
I don't feel like it is.
I thought he had a move called, like, the Rude Awakening or
It
something.
is called the Rude Awakening, but I don't remember.
Was that the Rude Awakening?
I don't feel like it was.
I don't think it is either. So anyhow, so finally, we get a little bit more to this match after these submission holds, and as the match starts to kind of move forward, Ravishing Rick Rude finally gets a pin on Jake the Snake Roberts, and you think there's going to be a 3 count, but instead the ref counts maybe 1 and then stops because he announces that the time limit has expired and both men are eliminated from the tournament. They called this match a draw.
Yeah. Which I guess we should have saw coming. They said it's a 14-man tournament. That's a little uneven. We were wondering how they were going to work that out. So apparently they work it out by having a decent match, long match, ending a draw.
Well, no, they said one-man gang's going to get a bye.
How does that work?
Well, we're about to find out because I believe we heard in Hogan's promo he was saying that he would meet Andre in the second round of the tournament. So it sounds like maybe Andre and Hogan got a bye from the first round of the tournament.
Oh, so they are part of the tournament and they just got a bye. Well, probably because one
the way
was
I'm
champion. I guess that can make sense if one was champion, then the other one won the championship, and it was kind of controversial. Well, there was bullshittery involved, considering they paid off the ref. So I guess it makes sense and it's fair to give them a bye.
Well, that's what it appears is going to happen here. But this one ends in a draw, so it sounds like they announced One Man Gang will get the bye in the next round of the tournament, and we'll see how this one shakes out.
All right. Which, to be honest with you, I'm not complaining about One Man Gang getting less matches.
Okay, before the next match, we get Mean Gene Okerlund, and we get a tournament bracket behind him, which was really cool to see.
Which helps explain a lot.
Yeah, explains a lot because one of the things they mention, or that Mean Gene mentions during this promo, I don't know if you call this a promo, but he explains that due to the actions on February 5th, that Hogan and Andre get a bye. Mm-hmm. So they did both get a bye. They are facing each other at the beginning of round 2. They also explained, as we had already heard, One Man Gang also gets a bye. So we get Vanna White, and she comes out. She was the Wheel of Fortune girl for many, many years.
I believe she still is.
Is she still on there?
I believe
Dear
so.
Dear Lord.
Both her and Pat Sajak. Yeah.
Wow, they're still on there? Wow.
I believe so.
I haven't watched it in years. I didn't know she was still around.
Me neither, but I'm pretty sure.
So now we get Vanna White with Mean Gene Okerlund talking about the upcoming tournament, round 2 of the tournament, and he asks her opinion of the matches coming up and who she likes in each match. And of course,
very biased. She continuously just chooses all the good guys.
Yeah, she chooses the face in every match, talks about how, it sounds like she kind of wooed over Hogan.
Mean Gene was concerned about her distracting him.
Yeah, she was
match.
Really into Hogan.
I mean,
so yeah, she kind of picked the baby faces in every match, and that was a cute little segment. And then we're moving on to the first match in a long time on the show. It's not a tournament match.
Yeah, we finally get to see the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. So we get the Ultimate Warrior, and he is taking on the mighty Hercules.
A demigod.
Yes, a demigod. And I have to ask, we watched this match... Was he everything you remembered and more? Because this was your guy growing up.
Yeah, when I was a kid, you always liked Hulk Hogan, and I always liked the Ultimate Warrior. I have a thing for I like the more flashy guys throughout history of wrestling.
Another word for that's flamboyant. You like the flamboyant ones, right?
That's right. I don't see what you're trying to get at there.
The men that wear makeup and feathers and tassels on their arms.
What's the problem with that? They're fantastic.
No, I agree. Ultimate Warrior is awesome. But yeah, growing up, it was kind of like, we had those buddy pillows. Remember those?
Yeah.
And I had the Hulk rules.
The wrestling or the football ones were called tackling dummies.
Yeah, but these
were called wrestling dummies.
We had the wrestling dummies that were kind of shaped, kind of soft like a pillow. And I had the Hogan one. You had the Ultimate Warrior one.
That's correct.
So now that you've seen him in action, this is the first chance we have got to see him in singles competition. We did see him briefly in the Royal Rumble, but unfortunately, when he was in the Royal Rumble, he was not in it very long, maybe 2.5 minutes. So now getting to see him in singles competition as an adult, what do you think?
This wasn't a very good showcase for the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, I guess it wasn't a terrible match, but just not much happened.
Yeah, I don't think it was an exciting match, but it wasn't a bad match.
No, it wasn't a bad match, but, if I'm going to try to compare this to the love of my childhood, I'm going to wait until, we get like Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6, some of his more high profile matches, and he's not facing a demigod like Hercules.
Well, this is obviously really early in his career. I don't know how long he'd been wrestling before this. I know he used to wrestle as the Dingo Warrior. I believe he was tag team partners with Sting at one time. I
don't imagine we'll get to see that.
This is early in his WWF career. No, I know we won't see that. We don't see Sting in WWF for 30 more years. That was... Whew. I know we're getting off subject, but that was a shocking moment. Something I didn't think I'd ever see.
Right. So I'm just going to wait until those more high-profile matches to really give a judgment on the icon of my childhood. This wasn't exactly the best showcase for the Ultimate Warrior. It was fine.
Yeah, it was a decent match. It just wasn't nothing special. There wasn't anything that was really riveting or great about it. But it wasn't a bad match.
Had a bit of an interesting end. That's another thing.
Yeah, the ending
we didn't get to see any finishers on this one.
So Hercules tried to do a suplex into a pin, and it kind of looked like that he was trying to get the pin on Ultimate Warrior.
Well, and at first,
Ultimate Warrior lifted his arm up before the 3 count, but the ref kept counting. So then you find out that apparently Hercules' shoulders were down on the mat, and that's why he was counting, and Hercules was down for the pin, and they awarded the match to the Ultimate Warrior.
Well, essentially the ref was counting for both of their shoulders being down, and then Ultimate Warrior got his shoulder up, but Hercules didn't, so Ultimate Warrior ended up getting the win. And then Hercules decides to try to choke out my childhood icon with his magical chains. And then the Ultimate Warrior takes those chains and starts twirling them around in the ring.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be in the ring with him. The referee had to have got out of Dodge.
The ref stood there in terror, I believe. He just stood there watching on while Warrior was just throwing those chains all around, all willy-nilly.
So yeah, that was kind of a fun finish to the match. I believe we're around about the halfway point of this WrestleMania, so
yep,
it's about time to end the first half of the podcast. This is part 1 of WrestleMania 4. So before we end it, what stands out to you so far on this WrestleMania?
I still feel like the biggest standout was the $1 Million Man selling moves. Not even the whole match. Mostly $1 Million Man just being the best heel that a heel can be.
Yeah, and I'm going to give it to Randy Savage and Butch Reed.
See, I feel like that's
still
name
felt
recognition
like that was
alone.
No, I felt it was a really good match. It was a really good worked match. I understand why you're going with the DiBiase Duggan match, but for me, it was really good worked match between those two. So
it wasn't a bad match. I can't really fault you on that. It's just I enjoyed the antics of $1 Million Man a little bit more.
And then, to be honest, so far we're halfway through. This has just been a less than memorable WrestleMania, in my opinion.
I mean, depending on how the end of this goes, and we'll find that out in the next part. But this probably is just going to be a slight step above WrestleMania 1 for me.
Yeah, So, the main event might make a big difference because it's somewhere floating. I've got to decide between 2 and 4 right now. But, I mean, it's just, hopefully it gets better, more exciting. I know the next match, it sounds like, when we come back on part 2, sounds like we'll be watching Hogan versus Andre. That should be fun. And we'll see where this tournament leads. But just so far, it's just been just kind of a letdown. WrestleMania is just not that exciting. I think the fact that these are tournament matches and there's going to be another match, maybe that's part of the problem because, usually you get these feuds and then you get these great matches at WrestleMania where instead you're not really getting those feuds. The major feud going on would be the Andre Hogan thing.
I was thinking about that, is that, a lot of this could be as simple as, none of these matches are really built up other than obviously Andre and Hulk, which we haven't seen yet. These aren't feud matches, they're tournament matches. So, yeah, that could play a factor, especially when we've seen so many botches. Yeah, it's just a lot of botches in this WrestleMania so far.
There has been. And then the only match really we got, we did get the Battle Royal. Is the Battle Royal and the Ultimate Warrior and Hercules match the only 2 matches we've gotten that's not related to the tournament?
Yes.
Okay, so then you kind of got the fact that other than, you had the Ultimate Warrior Hercules match, it sounds like there was a feud going on based off of the announcers, but we didn't get promos.
No, we didn't get to see any backstory on that.
Yeah, we got no backstory on this match, but it sounds like there's a feud going on based off of what Gorilla Monsoon was saying.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior just hates Greek mythology, so, he just went after the Hercules, the demigod.
So I think that might be playing into why... And it'd be different if we had this tournament with no build-up matches, with no hype to these matches. I think it'd be different if we got another great, like, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat Macho Man match that just tears the house down.
Well, we get that.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, if that one of these tournament matches, the greatest match of all time.
No, but you get where I'm going with this. Yeah. That if one of these tournament matches turned out to be like a spectacle... Which tore the house down.
It makes more sense that we'll get that spectacle later on. I mean, you also got to realize that these wrestlers are going to be wrestling at least 2 matches each, almost.
So they saving themselves.
So I mean, you don't throw it all on the line on the first match, do you?
Well,
you do what you need to win, and then you put on a spectacular show later.
That might be it. Maybe later on the second round, maybe we'll get better performances. So anyhow, our next match that we're about to get into is another rematch, and I say another rematch because we had watched the main event, which actually had the rematch between Hogan and Andre the Giant, which set up this WrestleMania. So this would be the third match between them. Now, granted, they could have wrestled more than this. I'm just referring
their title matches.
Yes. Well, no, this isn't
a title match. But
since WrestleMania 3's iconic main event.
Now, I will say that I have a little more hope for this end, because, I mean, your first round is going to be your people they know is not really probably going to win. Although I think a big mistake was that final round and having them both lose. Two great wrestlers, Jake the Snake and Rick Rude.
It was Jake Snake and Rick Rude.
Yeah.
Time eclipsed.
Yeah.
And so now somebody's going to get a bye. So it's just kind of weird that you would do that at a
Two of
WrestleMania.
your better wrestlers, and they both get taken out, I thought was a little disappointing. But, you know, a lot, especially when it comes to wrestling, we know it's scripted. So you got your...
What?
I'm sorry, Santa Claus is... Oh, never mind. Is great. Is absolutely great. Anyways, so, but you've got the main wrestlers out of the way. You know, these are the people that you want to showcase more. So I think we're going to get slightly better matches because you got the winners of the first rounds. And the more you take out the duds, the better the matches, I hope, are going to be. So I have a little bit more hope of this half.
You know, you brought a subject up. You mentioned wrestling being scripted, which I am shocked to hear.
Absolutely,
but
I'm sure.
I would like to point out that we have been on social media lately. I've been trying to grow that presence and give history of wrestling. And I'd like to point out to the people who comment on these pictures and posts that I end up posting, what does it do to say, in real life, the Big Show would have stomped Rey Mysterio? Well, no shit. It's like, are we kidding me? I can't believe I've got people on wrestling posts, in wrestling Facebook groups, that are like, well, in real life, Brock Lesnar would kill half the locker room because he's such a real beast. And it's like Big Show would just push anybody out of his way. It's like, why would you even mention that if you're a fan of wrestling? Like, why are you in a wrestling group reading wrestling history posts and then complaining about, well, in real life? It's just something I wanted to get off my chest. I've been doing this now for however long we've been doing this podcast. I've been growing this social media presence, and it just floors me.
Well,
absolutely floors me when I get certain comments underneath my post. It's just hilarious to me. And if you are one of those, you know, I agree with you. I hope you keep listening to the show.
Well, in real life, they aren't. I mean, one of the beauties of wrestling is trying to tell a story where someone like Rey Mysterio could actually defeat Big Show. Yes, we know that in a normal fight, more than likely,
right,
9 out of 10 times, Big Show wins that fight. However, that is the trick. That is the skill of wrestling, is to tell a story to make that believable.
It's a lot of times wrestling likes to do, and I believe we love this, is the David versus Goliath story. They revisit
some of my favorite matches.
Yeah, they revisit that all the time. They try to revisit that in so many different ways, whether it be a non-main eventer working themselves up, winning the Rumble, and getting that chance at the match at WrestleMania and becoming a first-time champion, or whether they do it legitimately like David Goliath and one's small and one's a giant.
Yeah.
They do it in different ways, but wrestling loves to build that underdog story in order to kind of embrace that mystique of wrestling. Like, he stands a snowball's chance in hell he would ever beat that guy. And then on wrestling's biggest stage at WrestleMania, there he is holding the title with confetti, and oh my gosh, nobody knew he could have beat them, and they've revisited that a lot. So
yeah, and that's that to bring it back to WrestleMania 3. That is the problem I have with the main event with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, is because that's the story they essentially are trying to tell, is that Hogan is the David and Andre the Giant is the Goliath. But I have a hard time, and maybe I'd think differently back then, but I don't think that I would. I mean, we got this muscle-bound man, Hogan, who's not that much shorter than Andre the Giant. Yes, he's smaller, but not by a lot. And it's hard for me to look at Hogan and be like, oh, well, that's a David. I can't believe he's overcoming this match.
You know, in the early days of WWF, in the early days of WrestleMania, mainly the early days of WrestleMania, not really WWF, but I would say that they used Hogan because he was such a celebrity. They used him more to get people to buy that pay-per-view.
And I get that.
Because he was such a massive celebrity at the time that it just felt like they kept going back to him for several years. Keep in mind, this will be the first WrestleMania we have watched on the podcast that Hogan's not main eventing the WrestleMania, and then he main events the next several WrestleManias.
Spoilers?
Well, okay. Well, we don't think he will, but maybe there's a chance. I don't know. But anyhow, if you know your history of wrestling, you already know how this is going to end. But he headlines it up until WrestleMania 8, and even WrestleMania 9, when he doesn't headline it, he finds a way to make it at the end of the show anyhow. So no matter what, you know, it was a different feeling. But as WrestleMania moved on into the future, that's when they kind of do that David versus Goliath story more of, you know, like when Shawn Michaels beat Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12, it was definitely one of them shining moments that it was like his boyhood dream came true. You know, they like to do that.
I get that.
All right, well, let's go ahead. And speaking of David versus Goliath, we're going to move on to our first match. Okay, so before we get into the next match, they give us a video package of the feud between Andre and Hogan. They take us all the way back before WrestleMania 3, at WrestleMania 3, and they show us the main event, things that led up to...
That we watched, yeah.
Yes, the moments that led up to this WrestleMania 4, why there's a tournament, so we get this big build-up, then we get the entrances, and this match didn't really last long, a little over 5 minutes.
No, Hogan freaking poses longer than the damn match. This egotistical bastard.
Hey, that's real American you're talking about right there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so anyhow, this match, there's not a lot about this match to really talk about, more about the events of towards the end of the match. Ted DiBiase and Virgil get involved. They bring a chair into the ring. Hogan steals the chair, hits Andre over the head with it. Match continues. So then Andre takes the chair, hits Hogan over the head with it. Then they ring the bell. Very awkward ending to a match. Instead of a disqualification by Hogan, they call this match a double disqualification because both men used the chair.
Yeah, this was absolute bullshit. I mean, okay, I'm just going to say this.
Agree.
I have to say this right here. This is absolute bullshit. Like, Hogan got disqualified. You don't wait till somebody else uses the chair as well and then are like, oh, it's a double disqualification. And let's put this in the way of story, okay? Number one, if they were going to do that, they should have both attacked with a chair. They both have a chair. both attack at the same time, then you can say double disqualification. But you don't have one person get disqualified and then be like, well, I'm going to see where this is going, and
now I'm going to disqualify both.
Then wait for the other ones, like, okay, no, it's a double disqualification. But let's go back to story. Much better story right now should be Hogan gets himself disqualified because he's a hothead. And then Andre goes on. The next person Andre faces, I believe, is $1 Million Man.
Potentially could be.
Is potentially $1 Million Man. And you don't tell me that's not a better story to have Andre make it
and
to
lay
the next
down
one
for
and
Ted
lay
DiBiase.
down. Ted DiBiase just shows him some money and Andre lays down for him. How much better of a story is that?
I'm sure
than a dumb-ass double disqualification
So,
that makes no sense.
So now they told us that Ted DiBiase, the winner between Ted DiBiase and Don Morocco, will get a bye. But I completely agree. They could have done some shenanigans where Andre could have laid down for Ted DiBiase, and it would have been a little bit more of a dramatic build up to that match, because it's like, oh my gosh, what's he going to do? He works for DiBiase. Are they going to wrestle? What are they going to do?
How great we could have moment that could have been.
You know what, Blaze? It's a shame Vince McMahon did not have you in the writing room 32 years ago to correct this wrong.
How much better? You could just have Ted DiBiase with a wad of money doing his signature. I'm the $1 Million Man. You know, it writes itself. Okay, you had the man buy the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Buy the wins. Buy the wins.
Yeah, just bring in money into the ring, hand it to Andre. Andre lays down.
Now, who knows? Maybe Morocco was... I'm trying to remember. No, The Rock's the good guy, so never mind.
The Rock Don Morocco is good at this point.
Yeah.
We've seen him as a heel in past WrestleManias, but currently
I still feel like it would be an interesting storyline. Like that, I want to see $1 Million Man do that. I'm pretty sure he has. Why wouldn't you do that? If you have that kind of character, I love that character. It is such a unique,
they had DiBiase Jr. right there in the palm of their hands for years in the WWE, and they never quite capitalized on it. I thought he was a great wrestler.
He was.
I know him and Cody Rhodes teamed up for a while, and they had kind of a, I think they called themselves the Legacy, maybe, but they were wrestlers of children of former Hall of Fame wrestlers and stuff, and they had him in the palm of their hands, and you would think the stories that they build today, that would really work in today's WWE.
I mean, I think that works no matter what.
I think it could have worked. It seems like they tried it here, but they just didn't go further with it throughout the show. That would have been... I completely agree. That would have been amazing. That would have been kind of a really good...
You disqualify Hogan. You got Hogan going, what? And getting mad because he's stupid. And then you have Andre the Giant going on and probably facing $1 Million Man, who $1 Million Man has already given him money to take the belt. All he has to do, it's perfect. It writes itself.
Can I point something out that I just noticed? So we had... Okay, so far, we have had... Survivor Series, Hogan's team lost, right? Didn't Bam Bam finally lose?
Bam Bam was by himself and he lost.
So they lost. I believe Hogan came out and pandered to the crowd, even though they lost.
Yeah. He keeps losing, and then
the main event
showboat out here comes out.
The special edition we did, the main event, he loses. I'm pretty sure he pandered to the crowd at the end of that match.
And
and right here, double disqualification. So I guess win, lose, or draw. Hogan panders to the crowd, and his music plays, and everybody who faces him, whether they beat him or not, don't feel much like a winner because guess whose music's playing and guess who's doing posing to the crowd at the end of every match, no matter if he wins or loses.
You know, you all might think I'm joking if you haven't been watching along with us and you're just listening to the podcast, but I swear to God, it was longer than the match. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. They replayed his music at least 3 to 4 times.
I don't know.
Over and over.
But he did. After the match was over, he went out and he botched a suplex with Virgil. Don't know whose fault that was. Really, it was Hogan's fault. He botched a suplex with Virgil, comes back into the ring and starts doing his poses. And all that event combined, I think you're right. It probably lasted longer than the actual match.
Check how long the match was, because I believe we've watched about 20 minutes of this program. I believe it started at 1:40, correct?
The match was listed at 5 minutes and 52 seconds.
We've watched at least 15 to 40 minutes of it. If 5 minutes of the match, it's longer. You take a little time away for the entrances, but...
And the video package.
And the video package. Okay, there's 5 minutes. 5-minute match, 5 minutes of Hogan showboating in the ring.
But the crowd loved it.
Crowd's stupid.
The crowd loved it. You have to remember, Blaze, he was the biggest superstar ever. At the time in which he wrestled, he drew. It is the house that Hogan built for a reason.
I'm not even so much mad about
Hogan brought legitimacy and popularity to wrestling.
I'm not even all that upset about the showboating. I just had to point out that the showboating lasted longer than the match, or at least the same amount of time. Okay, so the first match was disappointing. First match was disappointing between the two. The second match at main event, at least there was a fun storyline to go with it.
And this added
match
to that story.
Was stupid. This match was stupid because they completely made a mistake with this ending. And it wasn't a good match before that. All it was mostly Andre the Giant and just choking Hogan the whole time. The man can't do a damn wrestling. And can we talk about that suplex on Virgil at the end? What the hell, Hogan?
I think Hogan just forgot to drop with the suplex. He's like,
I don't feel like leaving my feet. So I'm just going to toss him.
So he just kind of tosses him over his shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell was that?
I've never quite seen a suplex done quite like that.
Because it was terrible. Because most wrestlers know that you follow through and you drop with them. It looked horrible. And you know what? I should apologize for the terrible wrestling from Andre, because Hogan's just as bad.
Oh, now, come on.
Based on that suplex. And Virgil's not a big guy. It's not like he should have struggled with that suplex.
No, I think it was just Hogan, when he put him up in a suplex, realized that I don't really want to drop.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to drop you.
Virgil, I'm not taking that drop, brother. You just fall. Boom!
Okay, well, the good news is, for Blaze, I'm sure you will be ecstatic to hear that Hogan has been eliminated from the tournament. So we assume that that's the end of Hogan for this pay-per-view.
Oh, I'm sure his dumbass will come out and pose at the end for another 10 minutes.
And I'm sure the fans will love it, and I'm sure they will record it for that 10 minutes, and I'm sure viewership went up during that 10 minutes.
And I will pray that you press that fast-forward button real quick.
Will not. We are here. We promise the viewers. We will be watching this from beginning to end, whether Blaze likes it or not.
Oh, just waterboard me, for the love of God.
Okay, so let's move on with the tournament. Okay, so the next match we've got is The Rock, Don Morocco, versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Now, this wasn't a bad match, wasn't a great match. It was just there. $1 Million Man had, he's selling his moments like he does.
Yeah, he had a fun one where he jumped off the top rope, did a elbow drop. Don Morocco moved, and he sold that miss. He whiffed.
Yeah, he kind of sold himself.
Yeah, he sold his own. Yeah, and it hurt.
Okay, but what we really want to talk about was the way this match ended, and there wasn't any there was no outside interference or nothing. As they mentioned, Virgil must still be in the back being checked by doctors because of that.
Because Hogan screwed up that suplex.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably because Virgil got hurt on a botched suplex, probably. Not because he got suplexed, but that's the reason they explain that Virgil is not at ringside with the $1 Million Man. Which is weird that he could still have Andre, you would think, in his corner, but he didn't. But regardless, the way this match ended was Don Morocco looked like he had the match in hand and then went bouncing off the ropes. Ted DiBiase dropped on the ground and avoided and then came back up, and then he picked Don Morocco up and just dropped him on
dropped his neck on
ropes.
The clothesline.
Yeah, on the ropes.
Ropes, yeah.
And it's like it choked him.
They were calling it a clothesline, so I'm thinking like what we call a clothesline. Maybe they didn't call that a clothesline.
No, they call it a clothesline. It just
they just had both.
I think that's just the way they referred to it.
Anytime your neck gets choked or hit, it's a clothesline.
Maybe, or maybe the commentary just didn't know what else to call it. But regardless, it chokes Don Morocco out. You can see kind of holding onto his neck. Ted DiBiase gets the pin 1, 2, 3. Very legal.
Yeah, it was just
no cheating.
It was a lackluster end. I mean,
it was just nobody thought that would be the end of the match. I don't think.
Yeah,
it was
a
just
lot
kind
of
of
these
a weird
matches
ending.
don't end in finishers. It's like you could just win with any move back then.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody had that spectacular finishing move. Now the match is over because that move just happened. Because as we were talking about while watching it, is the $1 Million Man's finisher was a sleeper hold called the $1 Million Dream.
Yeah. And I'm very upset because I did not get to hear... Okay, $1 Million Man has a fantastic theme song. And so far,
theme song for him.
He's been in the main events of these... Well, not necessarily him wrestling in the main events, but he was in the main event, and he doesn't have his music yet. And he's got a great song, that money, 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 money. Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Right. So he comes out to no music, no posse with him, nothing. It was just kind of, it felt uneventful.
I'm really, really missing my music and my entrance videos and pyros.
And you brought something up that while watching this that I didn't even think about. You're kind of excited to see, when do we get the Titantron?
Yeah.
When do we get that big screen TV while they're coming out with pictures and stuff? We haven't seen that yet either.
Well, let's get the music situation fixed first. Let's get that, and then I'll worry about videos. Because the entrance themes are just like integrated in my head. I love them, and not half the people have them and half of them don't. It's weird.
It is weird that it's not an all or nothing type of thing.
Yeah.
Like I believe in the first WrestleMania we watched, you heard Real American for Hulk Hogan, but I think that might have been it.
I think that was it.
I don't know
first
if
one.
Anybody else had entrance.
And they've
music.
slowly started getting other people entrances, but like some of even bigger stars, like $1 Million Man, doesn't have one.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be moving on now. Okay, so before the next match, we had a promo with Mr. Fuji and Demolition. Now, this was alright, and it had Bob Uecker interviewing them. He's funny.
One thing I've noticed is, except for a select few, like Roddy Piper, Hogan has his own voice, but it seems like a lot of these older wrestlers have this just like very basic voice when it's like, I'm going to take him down.
So we're not quite in the era of having that mic skill and being a wrestler is kind of
it's very
tied
cheesy,
hand in hand.
Very cheesy, simple, like gruff voice.
Because don't get me wrong, we will get there. We will get there. So the next match is round 2 of the tournament. It is the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Well, you forgot to mention that they brought One Man Gang out to celebrate his victory of just not needing to face anyone.
This is true. You're right. You're exactly right. They brought One Man Gang out and announced that he gets a bye. They literally brought him out of the locker room specifically so you could visibly see him and know this is the guy who gets a bye.
In fact, we're probably going to get the same thing from $1 Million Man.
We probably will. So then, after that, we get the entrances of Macho Man Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth and Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy the Mouth of the South Heart. So this was a pretty good match, I felt.
Yeah, this one was decent. Nothing to write home about, but not terrible. Not bad.
But it was a very decent match, and the ending was very surprising. And my first reaction was the ending was a schoolboy roll-up pin.
Well, no, it was a little more than that, too. It was Greg the Hammer Valentine was about to perform the figure 4 leg lock on Macho Man. And Macho Man, locks it and rolls him up for a schoolboy. It's not a traditional schoolboy. He was reversing a figure 4 leg lock.
And the more we watch this tournament-style WrestleMania, the more I'm realizing you're going to see some of these guys later on in the show, and maybe that's why they're saving their finishing moves, is because they don't want you to see the same finishing move all night long, same finish to a match all night long.
And I get that.
So maybe that's...
I didn't have a problem with the schoolboy. I like schoolboy finishes because they're always like a holy crap surprise, I had a little bit more of an issue with the $1 Million Man one just because it was just this random... It didn't look devastating. Yeah, he got choked a little bit, but, it just felt like a normal move you'd see in a wrestling match, and it was the end. It just, it didn't seem like the type of move that would finish a match. Schoolboys are more based on, a surprise and, just a shock that you got performed it.
Right. So this ended, and like I said, the way it ended, but the match was actually very entertaining. I enjoyed this match. There was a lot of good spots.
It was fine.
It was a back and forth, wasn't a squash match. Not one man had the advantage the whole match. There was
a pretty cool spot where Macho Man goes for his double axe handle, which this is the second time he's gone for it. And Greg the Hammer Valentine kind of reverses it, where he hits him as he's coming down from the double axe hammer from the top rope, and it hits Macho, but then you realize Macho actually succeeded in his double axe hammer, and
Greg punches him in the stomach.
Yeah, and then,
as he's coming down.
But Greg does a great job of a delayed sell of the move, where he just falls face first after taking the hit.
Yeah,
so it was a double hit.
They both got the move on. Both guys are down. But yeah, it was a good match. I enjoyed this.
Best part of the match I felt was that was fun.
The next thing we get in this WrestleMania is a Mean Gene Okerlund and Vanna White interview. They're discussing the events of the second round of this tournament.
Yeah, Vanna White pretends she doesn't know Bob Uecker like most of the women in my high school.
Wah, wah, wah. So now we move on to the WWF Intercontinental Championship match. This one is against Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus the Honky Tonk Man. With the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart and Peggy Sue in his corner.
His girlfriend.
Yeah, Peggy Sue, I don't know if it's his girlfriend or is his fan.
They described her as his girlfriend when he was facing to win the heart of Miss Elizabeth. So, but she still came out as his girlfriend, even though he was like, Miss Elizabeth wants me.
Thank you very much. So this match was fun. I actually had a lot of fun watching this match. It had a lot of good spots. Honky Tonk Man, the more we're revisiting these WrestleManias and these old pay-per-views, the more I'm kind of falling in love with him.
Yeah,
I remember
he's really
him,
great at the selling of the moves and stuff.
I remember watching him as a kid, but as a kid, I'm like, oh, Hogan, oh, Ultimate Warrior. You know, I'm like, these guys are my heroes. These guys are awesome as a kid. But as an adult,
you
watching
got caught
the
in the wave, and now you get to look at it with the more critical eye. That's one thing I'm loving about doing this entire show is I'm getting to see these with a more critical eye and really getting to appreciate the better wrestlers and recognizing the people that everyone loved. Not as good.
Well, they have their place in history.
Sure, they have their charm.
But I'm telling you what, man, Honky Tonk Man can sell a move similar to we've talked about $1 Million Man.
Yeah.
He just sells these moves, and he is so entertaining when he sells these moves.
Yeah, they're over the top sells, and I love it. I think what we're trying to say is we really respect and love a good wrestler that can sell moves properly.
Right.
You know? Don't just take the move and then nothing. These guys show that they got hurt, and they sell them. It's a great art form that more wrestlers should learn. Yeah. I know you want to be the best, and I know you want to look good with your moves, but selling other people's moves is just as important.
Right. So anyhow, like I said, this was a very good match. And it appeared that Brutus the Barber Beefcake was going to win this match with a sleeper hold. But unfortunately, Jimmy Hart gets the attention of the referee and then beats him over the head with the megaphone. So there's nobody there to rule Beefcake the winner. Beefcake even lets go of Honky Tonk Man thinking he won. He's even celebrating. It was kind of I'll tell you what, it was kind of an awkward celebration. It was like, he didn't really sell it too well, like, to sell the celebration.
You mean he didn't pose for 10 minutes
like
Hulk Hogan does?
He didn't really sell that he really believed he won the match. But I kind of was awkwardly watching him thinking to myself, I think they're kind of playing it off like he thinks he's the winner, but he didn't really sell that all that well. And this isn't about his wrestling. This is just about his, the aftermath. So then when he realizes the referee's down, he goes and he chases Jimmy Hart under the ring, pulls him out, and he got the Clippers.
Yeah, he gets bored and chases after the manager,
So he starts giving Jimmy Hart a haircut. Snip, snip.
I'm kind of sad because normally I like to defend the heels and doing heelish things. So far, we haven't had any bullshittery. No shenanigans have happened yet.
That is... what do you mean?
I guess Jimmy Hart does knock over the ref.
He was going to win the match. He gets the referee's attention, hits him over the head with the megaphone. So then we don't know 100% what's going to happen, but as Brutus is cutting the hair of Jimmy Hart, Peggy Sue comes in with a big jug of water and pours it on Honky Tonk Man to get him to wake up. He wakes up, they pull him out of the ring, and Jimmy, Peggy Sue, and Honky Tonk Man, they head out of the ring area, and then the announcer finally announces the winner, but by disqualification, is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. So we get a Beefcake win, but as we all know as wrestling fans, the title does not change hands on a disqualification unless you just watched Extreme Rules. Then I guess any rule can be made. But normally a title doesn't change hand on a disqualification. So that is how this match ends. So he gets to celebrate as the face and celebrate with the crowd, but unfortunately he walks out without the title.
So I'm guessing you're talking about the Dolph versus Drew match at Extreme Rules?
Yeah, where if Dolph got disqualified, he loses the title. And then now Drew just made stipulations, I believe, where if he wins...
No. Drew has not made stipulations.
Oh, no.
He told him that he will tell him the...
Yeah, but it's going to go...
Time.
It's probably going to go.
It's probably going to be the same, but he has not told the stipulations. So are you saying you didn't like that?
No, it wasn't that match. There's... it's a women's... women's match that Stephanie
Sasha Banks versus...
Yes, because of the shenanigans that happened in that match, Stephanie McMahon, that's the match I'm thinking of. And this would be twice in the last couple weeks that we're getting disqualification. You can win the title in these last couple matches that we've heard. So I'm just saying, up until 2020, the idea was disqualifications you can't win the title on.
Well,
but now
I will
it sounds
say right
like
here that I loved both of those storylines. I love Dolph because that's exactly what you should do as a heel. You get to pick the stipulations, stack the deck. That you're a heel.
Since we just kind of went into a time machine and went back to 2020 for a minute, can I say that Bayley and Sasha Banks is like the best thing in wrestling right now?
I agree. I'm enjoying them a lot.
And I thought the way she won that, quote unquote, won that match, and walked out of there as the Raw Women's Champion was like one of the best endings to a match. That it was like
it was great,
and it was one of those you left watching the show like, is she the champion? Is she not the champion? Is she just holding the title? Is Asuka the champion? It was a very good, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. To me, that was probably the best match of that night. I really enjoyed that match.
It was a good match.
Just the way she just ripped the referee's shirt off and she pinned for the 1, 2, 3. I know we're talking future wrestling here, but I really am enjoying Bayley and Sasha Banks because...
Well, this is a wrestling podcast.
Yeah.
We're
Bayley Doe Straps.
Bayley
Doe Straps and Two Belts Banks. I'm just loving... we've really came a long way in wrestling because for that to be my favorite thing in wrestling right now, that says a lot about how wrestling has evolved and how the women's division has become just as entertaining sometimes.
Yeah, because most of the women matches we remember, when we were younger, you had every once in a while you had one or two decent women's wrestlers.
During
Lita
the Attitude Era, you had
Trish
China.
Stratus.
China kind of beat up on all the women, and then you started getting Trish Stratus, Lita. You started kind of getting some people that compete, and luckily those two were together around the same time. But you never really had more than one or two real good women wrestlers. The rest
it was all about looks.
The rest were about looks, and it was.
It's evolved, and it's great. I love that they give the women the same kind of spotlight they give the men. And like you said, Sasha and Bayley, fantastic stories. They're great heels, which is weird because when I first saw Bayley, she was this hugger.
Yeah, she's definitely evolved in her character, and I love her. Those two together. Reminds me,
fun.
It kind of reminds me of the shenanigans to a degree, not the level of, but to the degree they remind me of Shawn Michaels and Triple H when they first started DX and they were just going around being super immature.
They're just being dicks.
To me, that is the presence they are giving to me, and I'm loving it.
Well, I have bad news for you because we're pretty confident that they're very soon going to break up. We're thinking Sasha versus Bayley is going to be SummerSlam. That's my one of our predictions.
No, I think SummerSlam's way too soon. Because we're talking about her potentially this...
Well, they've been kind of building that up for months.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I'd rather see it at WrestleMania, to be honest. Okay, so
maybe.
Hypothetically, let's say Bayley two straps and two belt Banks ends up colliding. Who's the heel? Who's the face?
I think Sasha will be the face, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it will be Sasha will be the face, and Bayley will stay a heel. Bayley's working so well as a heel, so Sasha. But I'm thinking Sasha will become the face.
Sasha be the face. Fair enough. Okay, well we have veered way off subject of WrestleMania 4, but it was kind of nice to jump into the future for a few minutes.
Right.
There.
Well, I wanted you to bring up something that you just talked to me off air.
Yes. So off air, we were watching this, and I was telling Blaze here that this match continues the Honky Tonk Man's historical reign as the Intercontinental Champion, which surprisingly, when I researched this, I found out that this is the Honky Tonk Man's only reign as Intercontinental Champion. And he never became WWF Champion, and he never became a Tag Team Champion.
This is his only belt.
This is his only title, and it is the longest Intercontinental Championship reign in the history to this day, because that and the WWE title are the only two titles I think that are still around that they hold that history with, because the world title is no longer, so it's now the Universal Championship.
No, they also have the world title. The world title is...
No, the world title is gone. It's the Raw Raw Championship and the Universal Championship.
I believe...
So it's the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship. They retired the big gold belt and the World Heavyweight Championship.
I could have swore they still look at one of them. I thought it was the
I'd have to look in the
title.
record books, but
they've switched them.
I believe the original world title, the history's over, and that's a new title, I believe.
No, I believe they keep the prestige.
We can fact check that later, but the Honky Tonk Man's reign lasts 454 days, and because of the disqualification, his reign will continue.
Correct.
So hopefully, as we continue watching these pay-per-views, hopefully we get a chance to see the reign end, and hopefully it doesn't happen on an off show. So that'd be kind of nice to see, because that is historical.
Yeah.
So, moving on. Okay, so the next segment we get is kind of an iconic segment. It's footage they've shown us throughout the years for many years as a wrestling fan, and it happens here at WrestleMania 4. It's where Bob Uecker is interviewing Andre the Giant, and Andre chokes Bob Uecker, and you get that kind of that imagery that you've seen. Anytime they're talking about the legacy of WrestleMania, or anytime they talk about the legacy of Andre the Giant, that's one of the moments you've seen footage of, even if you wasn't around watching wrestling back then.
Yeah, you see it often. It's like a comedic spot.
Yeah. So, and Bob Uecker sells that choke so well. So well. So we get that, kind of iconic segment, and then we move on to a 6-man tag team match. And that match is between the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid, and their partner, Coco Beware, versus the Islanders, Haku and Tama, and their partner is Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Bobby the Brain Heenan comes out, and this is definitely your comedy spot of the night. Even though there was great. I mean, good wrestling going on.
This is probably the best comedy match that we've gotten.
This was a good comedy segment where you had Bobby the Brain Heenan come out in this like. What I don't even know what you call those protective suits that if you're training a dog, like a lot of police officers when they're training a dog, they wear this padded suit to allow the dog to bite them. That's what he is wearing throughout the whole match.
Yeah.
And it's all because he's worried about the dog Matilda, which the British Bulldogs bring out. So it's kind of funny, but to be honest...
Matilda does have magical powers, so, there's that too.
So it's just kind of funny because there was actually some really good wrestling going on in this match, but you had that little comedy aspect of it. And the match actually ends with the Islanders slamming Bobby the Brain Heenan onto Coco Beware, and he just happens to be there, and he gets the pin 1, 2, 3. But I thought this was a really fun match, and I'm usually pretty critical on the comedy segments because I like WrestleManias. I like some of the great matches.
I don't mind
but
comedy
this one
segments.
Mixed it well.
I don't mind comedy segments so much as the comedy segments we've gotten have been either offensive or terrible, or a little bit of both.
Maybe so. But this one was the right amount of comedy with the right amount of actual wrestling going on.
Yeah, you got a manager in there wrestling with this giant bulky suit. I mean, and then there was also some cool spots like Coco Beware when they both lifted him up.
Yeah, he did a really good little double
reversal
move on the Islanders.
Yeah, it was a really cool one.
I don't even know what you would call that, but he had his legs hooked to one of them and his arms hooked to the other, and he kind of spun them both around.
Yeah, I think one was kind of like a bit of a hurricanrana in a way.
Kinda, yeah, and it was like a reversal. It looks like they were about to do a tag move on him, but he was able to turn it into this reversal.
Yeah, it was
that
really
was a
cool
really
spot.
That was a really fun, cool spot. But I tell you what, I don't know how much I can praise this match because this really was. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, this will be probably one of the first times the comedy section is not my worst of the night.
Yeah, it's not going to. It's definitely not going to be worst of the night. It might be leaning towards best of the night so far, but I know we still have the main event, and I'd have to really kind of go back because this WrestleMania, as much as we have talked about it being kind of a little bit more uneventful, just because I think you lack a lot of the matches with the feuds and everything. It's this tournament style. Outside of how uneventful this one feels, I still do feel that there hasn't really been a bad match to just...
It's not... There's no...
There's
been no
bad,
matches that are
feel
offensively bad or like really bad. It's going to be hard to pick a bad match of the night because the matches have just been fine for the most part.
No, there's been solid, good matches. Some of the matches, I have a feeling the bad match of the night is going to be more on your side of it just lacked something special.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time deciding
that maybe other matches probably reached. So it's really going to be kind of difficult with this one because there hasn't been a terrible match, but there hasn't. I don't know if there's been that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat Macho Man Randy Savage epic amazing match yet either.
I do think I have my worst match so far. But
oh, you're going to go Hogan Andre, aren't you?
It's because
so horrible.
It is a terrible ending. Terrible ending.
You know what? I might actually agree with you on that one. Because I'm having a hard time too. But we will save that for the segment of the night. So after this match ends, the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan did win this match. But after this match ends, we do get, for some reason, a announcement of please welcome Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah, he just goes up there
and he just kind of poses and
pulls a Hogan and showboats.
Yeah, basically exactly what he does. He basically pulls a Hogan and showboats and everything, and that's pretty much what we get with Jesse the Body Ventura. It was a very odd segment. I don't think they were inducting him into a Hall of Fame. They were just...
No, we don't have Hall of Fame
we'd
yet.
like to direct your attention to a legend of the business, Jesse the Body Ventura. And it was like...
Yeah, so far
why?
we don't have the induction of the... Like, nowadays, every WrestleMania, you have the induction of the Hall of Fame.
I don't think the Hall of Fame was created until the 90s. I think maybe 92, 93.
I don't know. We might have to look into that.
Yeah, we'll have to look into it. But yeah, there's no Hall of Fame yet. So we'll get to that. So let's move on. Okay, so before they start the next match, they make an announcement that the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, does in fact get a bye, and he will be facing the winner of this next match, which this next match is the still the tournament match. It is the Macho Man, Randy Savage, with Miss Elizabeth, and his opponent, One Man Gang, with Slick in his corner. Now, they also pointed out that One Man Gang has only wrestled twice, or only wrestled once so far. This would be his second match. Where Macho Man, this is his third match in a row.
And will be 4.
Getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
A little bit.
Okay, will be 4. But they would just point it out, which also means Ted DiBiase, who's already made it to the finals, only had to wrestle 2 matches. That'll be his third. So Macho Man, he does move on and wins this match. It'll be his 4th match. 4 Macho Man Randy Savage matches all in one night. And I don't know why I didn't think about it before, but that's pretty crazy. So this match, it was a pretty good match. It was big man versus smaller man. Not that Macho Man's little, but big man versus smaller man. So you had a lot of that brute
Macho's
strength,
being speedy and running around the ring. And
so One Man Gang looked pretty good in this match, but he took, I believe, at least 3 double axe handles from Macho Man in this match, and 2 of them were back to back. That was pretty interesting to see. But the match ends up kind of getting off the rails because Slick comes to kind of chit-chat with Miss Elizabeth, you know. I think he wants to show her his pimp hand or something.
He was trying to be slick.
Yeah. And then the referee gets involved to kind of get Slick away from her. But even after Slick walks away, he's still talking to Miss Elizabeth. So you got a referee kind of macking on Elizabeth there. So Slick throws in his cane to One Man Gang. He hits Macho Man in the back with it, and then you could see he's not done with it. He wants to hit Macho Man again, but the referee finally turns around and sees that he has the cane in his hand, and so your winner by disqualification is the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Which has been an theme in this WrestleMania. There's a lot of DQs in this one.
A lot of DQs, not a lot of finishes in a lot of these tournament matches.
These heels need to be better at being sneaky.
Yeah, so we get some shenanigans in this match, but we do find out that because of the disqualification, it'll be for your main event for the WWF Heavyweight Championship. It'll be the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, versus the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
So this should be a fun main event. I can't wait. But before we get to that main event, we unfortunately have one more match we have to deal with, and then we will be on to our main event and the conclusion of WrestleMania 4. No, I'm not saying unfortunately that of who it is, just I can't wait to see this main event. But we have a match in between before we can get to this main event. So without further ado, let's move on. Okay, next we get a segment with Mean Gene Okerlund and Vanna White, and they're talking about the tournament. Mean Gene saying thank you to Vanna White for being involved and joining him this evening, and she walks off screen while Mean Gene just kind of creepily appears to be staring at her ass, doesn't she?
It does appear that Mean Gene was looking at Vanna White's ass.
Very, very much so. He even gave a little kind of a look like, that's pretty nice. So then here comes Bob Uecker running in after Vanna White already leaves, and Mean Gene says, "Look, Vanna White's already left." He's like, "Vanna White? I was looking for Vance White. He keeps writing me these letters." So it was a little comedy segment there, so to kind of end the whole Bob Uecker looking for Vanna White all night. So then that brings us to the next match, which is for the WWF Tag Team Championships. I'm excited. I remember as a kid just absolutely loving this next team. And this was before they added a third member. But this was Demolition with Axe and Smash and Mr. Fuji versus the current tag team champions, Strike Force, which is Rick Martel and Tito Santana. Now, this was a pretty good tag team wrestling match. Nothing bad. It was, you can tell Demolition, which I couldn't remember, because I was so young when I remember watching Demolition, but I remember, just being excited with the face paint and the the kind of the outfits. They come out with these masks on before they take the masks off to reveal they have this face paint on, and I always thought that tag team was so cool. I remember owning the wrestling figures of them, thinking they were so cool. So it was really cool to see Demolition in action here. But it turns out they're really just bruisers.
Yeah, they are.
That's about all you get. You don't get a lot of wrestling moves with these guys. There was a suplex here and there, but for the most part, they're punches and kicks.
They're brawlers.
They're definitely brawlers, which I guess makes sense for their persona, but we're talking... Well, I was under 10 when I remember watching these guys.
You enjoyed the flashy stuff, the makeup and everything.
Yeah,
the look. You just didn't really pay as much attention to the wrestling back then.
Of course not. But that's why everybody was Hogan fans. So,
hey, and I'm the one bashing.
No, I'm just saying Hogan does some wrestling moves here and there, though. But I mean, But Demolition was definitely bruisers. This match was it was a pretty fun one to watch. And it ends in chaos yet again, kind of been the theme of the night. And we get to see our second match with a cane being used. This is not the first time we've seen a cane used in a match.
He was just making sure, he thought this was his cane. He wanted to see if it was his, and he just tripped.
Oh, is that right? So Mr. Fuji gets up on the apron. I believe it was Tito Santana goes and tries to knock Mr. Fuji off of the apron. Well, in the meantime, Mr. Fuji drops his cane. So then, and I don't remember, it was Axe or Smash. I think it was Smash. Grabs the cane, hits Rick Martel over the back with it, and Axe gets the pin. 1, 2, 3, and we have new WWF Tag Team Champions of the World, Demolition.
Yeah, all serious aside, or all seriousness, this is a tag team that knows how to cheat properly. Do it behind the ref's back and get away with it and win the match and win the titles.
That's a fair argument. So yeah, this was a fun match. It had your heel, winning, the crowd booing. But this was a good match. We got to see a title change tonight, so I was happy with what we saw here.
Yeah, it was a decent match.
Okay, so before they start the main event, we have Bob Uecker gets brought out, Vanna White gets brought out. She kisses Bob Uecker. He looks all excited over that, and then it's time to move on to our main event, which is for the vacated World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Championship. So first off, we get the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He comes down with Andre the Giant, like I think we kind of mentioned earlier. No music, still no music. It was kind of odd, because it felt like kind of a long walk for the main event with no music. It was
just... we're getting to see everybody come down the aisle, but half of them don't have music, and your main event, $1 Million Man, does not have any music coming down the aisle.
Yeah, and we know he's got an iconic song, so we're just guessing.
I've already bitched about it earlier.
We're guessing that song has not released yet. They have not played that song yet. So hopefully, maybe the next event we see Ted DiBiase, maybe we'll get that money, 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 money.
I believe that was Shane McMahon's music.
Oh, no. It just depends how you sing it. Money, 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 money. That was Trump's music, I believe, during his WrestleMania appearance. So, anyhow, got a lot of money music.
Money, 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 money.
So then we get Macho Man Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth. They start coming down the aisle with Miss Elizabeth kind of looking like she's just disgusted with the fans.
Well,
they're reaching out for high fives.
You know?
They're reaching out for high fives and stuff, and her arms are just kind of up, like, "Ew, don't touch me." so we just kind of noticed that. So she definitely was not into being touched by the fans. So this match starts off, and very early on, you see Andre's going to be a problem. He trips Macho Man twice right off the bat. Trips Macho Man where the referee doesn't see it, and you can tell this is going to be a problem.
These are like quick trips too. Like you don't even notice it until he falls.
Very sneaky.
Very
sneaky.
sneaky.
So then Macho Man kind of goes over and says something to Miss Elizabeth. Miss Elizabeth goes down the aisle, which you can tell she doesn't like that.
Crap, there's no one to stop me.
And you start hearing chants of Hogan. So here he comes. Miss Elizabeth goes out and gets Hulk Hogan to even the score. He grabs a steel chair, unfolds it, and sits down. And I thought chivalry must already be dead here, because he sits in the seat and makes Miss Elizabeth just stand there. Found that very odd.
Oh, he probably offered to let her sit down on him.
Oh boy. This is very possible. Anyhow, so he sits there and just kind of, he's like telling the referee, "I'm just here to watch the match, brother." So then finally it happens again. Andre kind of gets involved, pulls Macho Man out of the ring while the ref is not looking once again, and here comes Hogan to attack Andre and even the score. So that's what happens here. More stuff happens in the ring, and eventually
Hogan finds his way into the main event.
He finds himself in the ring in the main event, even though he's not billed to be there. He comes out into the ring with the steel chair, and behind the referee's back hits Ted DiBiase with the chair.
Blatant disregard for the rules by Hogan.
So DiBiase lays perfectly in the center of the ring, so Macho Man can go up top, and does his iconic flying elbow. 1, 2, 3. We have a new World Wrestling Federation champion. the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And they do their celebration. Macho Man hands the title to Miss Elizabeth, puts her over his shoulders, and you get the iconic image of her holding the winged WWF title, and he is the new champion, and this is the end of WrestleMania 4. No cheesy credits this time.
Nope.
No flash pictures or still pictures. We get pretty much just an ending. It just ends with them celebrating. So
freeze framed Macho Man holding Elizabeth with the belt, and they just finish it off with they keep playing his music.
Yeah, so far in these events, we're used to some kind of cheesy montage of pictures and some cheesy 80s music, and we do not get that in this one. We finally just get an end. And that is our main event. So what did you think of WrestleMania 4 now that we have concluded it?
Well, wouldn't you like to know how I felt about the match first?
Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about the match. I guess
I thought it was a decent match. It was a good match.
It was a good match. It was a fun match. A lot of story building in this match. This wasn't as of great of a match as Ricky the Dragon versus Macho in WrestleMania 3.
I don't think we're going to see that for quite some time.
We get a little bit of story building in this match. So now that do you want to talk more about this match?
Nope, it was a good match. Look, I love Macho Man, and as of right now, he's a face. So it was kind of a weird end seeing Hogan come in and essentially cheat for him.
Well, I think the idea was they were already cheating, and Ted DiBiase.
I get that.
Ted DiBiase has put them through so much hell that it was just kind of like they felt it was fair, evening the score. I think that was kind of the idea behind it.
And I get that.
So that concludes WrestleMania 4. Now that we have concluded WrestleMania 4, what did you think of this event?
Well, the second half was definitely better than the first. Still kind of a lackluster WrestleMania for me. Even the main event, I mean, it was decent. It was a good match and everything, but it was... I expected more.
Yeah, there wasn't really that special, iconic match that
I'm really having a hard time.
People would just talk about, I felt. That you didn't have that moment that was just like, this is an amazing WrestleMania. And you usually get at least a moment or two in every WrestleMania that kind of you point at, oh yeah, that was WrestleMania 12, that was the Iron Man match, or WrestleMania 14, that was, you get those kind of those moments, and it just wasn't there this time, was it?
No, there really wasn't anything outstanding in this WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's kind of a forgettable WrestleMania. I mean, you do have some iconic, I guess you do have some moments they still play. Miss Elizabeth sitting on his shoulder with the title. I've seen that imagery a lot. Andre choking Bob Uecker happened in this WrestleMania. But as for matches and the show in general, it just really was kind of a blah WrestleMania. Yeah. And I hate to say that because I really enjoy the old wrestling shows better.
And I'm missing Roddy Piper.
Yeah, still no Piper. Not 100% sure if he was injured around these years. We might have to research that and find out what happened to Piper because he was definitely missed. He brings a specialty to these shows, and unfortunately we didn't have him in this show, so I'm not sure. And we haven't had him in the last couple shows, really, have we?
No, we haven't had him since, I think, WrestleMania 3. So I looked it up, and yes, the last time we had Piper was in WrestleMania 3. Apparently, Piper said that he was retiring win, lose, or draw against Adrian Adonis in WrestleMania 3. He won, and he retired. So he was retired for a short time. I guess he was retired for about 2 years. So we're not going to see Piper for a couple more shows, probably.
Okay, so that makes sense. And so what did he do during these years?
He was filming the cult classic They Live.
John Carpenter movie, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that explains where Piper's been. He decides to go to Hollywood, retire from wrestling, but as we know, he comes back.
Yep. He was going Hollywood.
Well, a lot of them do. I mean, we've seen The Rock go Hollywood, Batista go Hollywood. Hogan
successfully.
Hogan has went Hollywood, but kind of stayed in the wrestling business. Little, on and off again relationship with Hollywood for him. But yeah, we've definitely seen this in the past. Some are more successful than others. Obviously, The Rock being the most successful.
I think WrestleMania 4 could have really helped with Roddy Piper in that.
Yeah, we were
show.
Definitely missing him. So before we continue, let's go ahead and finish that letter Boomer sent us.
Yep, let's finish it up. So he says that originally they were going to have the $1 Million Man win the WWF title in the tournament. These plans changed because Honky Tonk Man didn't want to drop the Intercontinental title to Macho Man Randy Savage, which I guess we wouldn't have had that streak and longest reigning Intercontinental Champion if they would have done that. So Vince decided to have Randy win and become the World Champion, which worked in the long run because it led to the Mega Powers storyline.
Okay, which as we know, the next event we're going to be covering will be SummerSlam, the very first SummerSlam in 1988, and it will have the Mega Powers versus, I guess they're not quite Money Inc. yet, but Ted DiBiase and I believe Andre the Giant, they'll face off in the first SummerSlam.
Which they kind of set up for SummerSlam with this pay-per-view.
And you can see that they're really building these matches up. I mean, we're talking as far back as it would have been Royal Rumble and everything. And I mean, they're really building this feud.
Well, you got to realize they didn't have, like nowadays, we have a pay-per-view every single month to build up and then face in feuds. You have a weekly show every week nowadays, and then a pay-per-view. So we just started getting pay-per-views only 4 out of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely, the business appears to be growing. So you can definitely see that you're definitely getting just a good, lengthy feuds going on. I mean, before this feud with Hogan and Andre, and then $1 Million Man adds to it, and then now Macho Man is adding to it. Before that, we had the Macho Man Honky Tonk feud for several different events. We saw that feud kind of mustering up and everything. So it's really cool to see. I mean, with only 4 pay-per-views a year, which until we watched SummerSlam, we hadn't even got to that 4th pay-per-view a year, and Royal Rumble was a TV special, not a pay-per-view at first. So It's just kind of neat to see they really kind of took their time to add to these stories up until a WrestleMania, up until a Survivor Series and everything. So that's very interesting, because nowadays you build that story and then it usually either ends at a pay-per-view, or they might drag it through a couple pay-per-views without a very good conclusion or whatever. But it's just interesting to see these feuds kind of last
for years.
Well, not years, but several months at least. And then, it could last, a whole year, when you've got the Andre and Hogan thing has definitely been going since the WrestleMania before that. And they still haven't really concluded that feud. Because as we see, SummerSlam 1988 is going to have this tag team match. So it's just kind of interesting to see. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and ask about the best and worst matches of the night. Let's move on to that segment.
Favorite match of the night.
Okay, so favorite match of the night. For me, I'm actually going to have to go with the 6-man tag team match. The Islanders with Bobby the Brain Heenan versus the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware. I don't know why. I just thought that was the best, funnest match of the night. I really enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of good spots. And surprisingly, I'm going to have to give it to that one.
It had probably the best spot. The little reversal when they had Coco Beware up was probably one of the most interesting things to happen. This is a tough one for me. I have a clear-cut worst match of the night. Best match? I don't know. I kind of want to say Macho Man and $1 Million Man, mainly because of the people involved. And it wasn't a bad match, but nothing. I guess storyline-wise, it was an entertaining match.
So for you, there was no actual match that just jumped out at you as this was the showstopper.
Yeah, none of them. Really, there was. I don't know if I think this show deserves a best match.
Well, I'm going to force you to pick one. So are you going to go with Macho Man and Ted DiBiase?
By default.
By default.
I suppose.
Okay.
Worst match of the night.
Okay, so much like how Blaze didn't have really a clear-cut winner of the night, that's kind of where I'm at right now with a clear-cut loser, because as much as there wasn't like a standout greatest match, there really wasn't a standout worst match either. So I'm gonna go to you first so I can kind of think about this. What do you think your worst match of the night was?
This one was a little easier for me. It's the Hogan versus Andre match. I just bullshit finish. Not a great match. Yeah, and 10 minutes of it is Hogan standing and posing in the ring.
You know, I'm actually, I hate to do this, but I think I'm going to agree with you, because the Andre Hogan match really wasn't much of a match. It was a lot of story driven, which is fine, but there really wasn't much to it as a match. And just based off of that opinion alone, I'm going to agree with you that was the worst match of the night.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst match in my book. All the other matches, like I said, I had troubles finding the best match because some of them were, a little better than others, and maybe I should have picked one $1 Million Man, really, because $1 Million Man didn't sell the moves as much. Like, he didn't have any really fun, flashy sells in the Macho Man match compared to the ones he had earlier.
I was going to say, in the Jim Duggan match, that almost competed for my best match of the night.
I agree, but just because of $1 Million Man.
it was a fun match.
Yeah, but so definitely clear cut worst match of the night is Andre versus Hogan.
Okay, so we have 4 WrestleManias under our belt now, so let's move on to ranking these things.
WrestleMania rankings.
Okay, so we're going to rank these things. For you, Blaze, I want to know, what is the bottom of your list?
All right, number 4 for me. It's going to stay WrestleMania 1.
Okay. I'm also I'm also going to go WrestleMania 1 for 4 for me. Number 3?
WrestleMania 4.
I'm also going to go WrestleMania 4. Number 2?
WrestleMania 2.
This is getting redundant. WrestleMania 2 for me, and WrestleMania 3, obviously,
WrestleMania 3
is number 1 for both of us. So far, our opinions aren't really differing here. So our rankings look pretty similar.
Well, I mean, WrestleMania 1 was just like I said, I've said it before, you've yelled at me, it's a glorified house show. It's definitely the least feeling of WrestleMania. WrestleMania 4, it's not necessarily that it's a bad pay-per-view, but there's just nothing that shines. There's nothing that really shines. Other than Macho Man winning the title, just because I like Macho Man, hey, yay, but it wasn't a showstopper match or anything. So it's just WrestleMania 4 just stays slightly above WrestleMania 1 for me, just because WrestleMania 4 did have, like, it wasn't horribly offensive. It just wasn't horribly, majorly great either. So it's mostly just lack of anything. And then WrestleMania 3 wins, in my book, as the best one so far, simply because WrestleMania 3 has one of the best matches, the best match we've seen so far. So I imagine it might not stick as my number 1, because overall the show wasn't like as outstanding outside of that. But for now, so far we haven't had just a blockbuster WrestleMania in my book, but we have had a blockbuster match, so that it's clear-cut winner as of right now.
Okay, so that's gonna do it then for today and for this WrestleMania. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, let's talk about the interview that we have lined up.
Yes, that's right. We've got former WWE superstar Chris Hollyfield. He is better known to most of you as Little Boogeyman. He is going to be coming on the show, having an interview. We're going to be giving away his book. His book is
Big Message Short Story.
Yes, so we will be giving that book away. He will be signing the autograph in the book, and all you have to do is like, subscribe, and share the post, and you will be entered for a chance to win a signed autographed copy of Chris Hollyfield's book. This is going to be a great interview. He has been in the ring with many legends of the business. He's been in the ring with The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Boogeyman, Mark Henry. The list just goes on. He has amazing stories to tell, and we can't wait to share it on our show.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this interview.
So definitely check that one out. We also, if you go to the Rage and Blaze show on Facebook, definitely subscribe to that. We've got the Instagram page at the Rage and Blaze show. I've got the Twitter account at Ricky Rayberg.
Yeah, and I have Dragon Blazer Productions on Facebook, Dragon Blazer Productions on Instagram, at Dragon Blazer Pro on Twitter. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at rageandblaze@gmail.com. And then I also have a YouTube page, Dragon Blazer Productions, where I'm starting to put all of the podcasts that I do on Dragon Blazer Productions on YouTube and other video game videos and stuff like that. This show, or this interview, will also be on there.
Yes, the interview will be on there. You'll actually get to see the Zoom call for the interview that we're going to do with Chris Hollyfield, and it is definitely worth a watch. He's a very charismatic guy, and he's got he's just got amazing stories to tell, and I just can't wait for this episode to drop.
I really am excited. It will drop on Wednesday, August 12th.
Yes, so definitely keep an eye on that. And then the contest will go a week long after
The interview drops.
After the interview drops. So you'll have a week to be able to share and like and subscribe, and we will pick a winner at random after that week long. So this should be very exciting for us. This is our first giveaway that we've ever done on the show. So hopefully this goes well, and maybe we can do more in the future, because we're really excited about this. So this has been another exciting episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And good night from Rage's Pit. And here is your winners, and still podcast tag team champions of the world,
The Rage and Blaze Show.
Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Rage and Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze Show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.